people have changed. People have changed and there is no going back. Quite often now, I find myself reminiscing on timelines in the past that have taken place in my life. And I really see how incredibly lucky I was to live in a time before social media happened, before empathy began to completely disappear from the world, before common sense disappeared from the world, a time before narcissism and cluster B people dominated everything. I often find myself looking back into a time where things were very simple and life had a sense of hope to it. It had a sense of flow. Now I see humans are taking out the humanity from themselves as they advance more and more into consuming each other and reducing each other to entertainment, reducing each other to something that we just use and discard at our earliest convenience with each other. I think that at this point, a lot of the more empathic and deeper thinkers of the world, to survive, we have to isolate just to get through the day as best as we can. I often find myself looking into the eyes of everyday people on the street, or maybe in a shop, in a coffee shop, and I just see the imagination and the soul in them is just gone. And there's just no better way to describe it than that. They're just dead inside. They look hollow, and the spark in people is dying. The kindness in people is dying. I think these days people kind of look into their future and they just see this timeline now where we're just merging with technology, and social media has created people that are very evil. There's no real better way to describe it. And people that just lack basic compassion. Compassion is declining from the world. Quite often, or just the other week, I even went into a restaurant and with a friend, and we were both completely ignored by some younger staff. Imagine having a restaurant with not really anyone in there, and you can't even be bothered to look up from your phone just to acknowledge someone who's walked into your restaurant. Everyone has a very me-focused attitude. Like, what's in it for me? How much money do I get? What do I get? This type of thinking has become the norm now. and people are turning themselves or have turned themselves into something that is consumable. This is modern day capitalism on a level that we have never seen. And unfortunately, this is not a simulation. Nature is not a simulation, but it feels like we're all living in a simulation of sorts with people. Well, nature is a simulation of sorts, but I don't want to freak you out too much. But with people, they've gone into this kind of video game, and they're playing life as a character, like a caricature of themselves, like an avatar of themselves. And you can feel that. You can see that they're fake. You can see that they don't care. They don't have empathy. They don't have any time for you. They're just pretending. This is where we're at. A lot of the time I have to go into the bush. This is a photo of me in my shamanic clothing. For those of you that don't know, I am an occultist and a spiritualist. And if you're an astrologer or you know anything about astrology, I have mass amounts of 12th house placements in my chart, as a lot of mystics do. So as I'm getting older and older, my interest in human affairs or the human world is waning. At this point, I would rather connect to the spiritual world and be able to work in other realms and pull away from the human world. I'd be quite happy to live out in the forest on my own. I will hunt rabbits and hunt for food myself with my bow and arrow. I have survival training, and I'm very good with knives and stabbing weapons and hand-to-hand combat. I also have a very strong knowledge in survival, making a fire, building shelter, real life skills. It's actually quite brutal. It's actually quite bloody. But being a mystic and understanding how nature works is key, because nature is, and time is, the ultimate equalizer in this world. Time catches up with everyone. No one can escape the atrophy of the human form. So as I'm getting older, a lot of the mind programming and the conditioning and the bullshit that I was fed at school, the things that I was taught, I now see was all a lie, and we were all programmed to go and work in a job that we hate as a wage slave, so that one day we might be able to own a property. And now we see that dream is what we call a pipe dream. It's a pipe dream. It's not real. And when you look at people these days, you will see a lot of them know that now. They know that this is all futile. They know that they're never going to own their own home. They're never going to get married. They're never going to have kids. They're never going to have a family. They're just going through the motions and getting pulled around in the current of life because the game became so rigged. If you are doing any level of deep psychological analysis of yourself, then you're going to have to see what I'm talking about. Because this is where society has come. We no longer have values, and the standards in which we treat each other have become so low. The cost of luxury and living in a modern world has weakened people and infantilized people into entertainment, where they would rather just live in a simulation on their phone. The average person now spends 6 hours a day on their phone. We are becoming more and more dependent on technology and, yes, AI. And AI feels so fucking evil to me. The darkest recesses of the human mind now can be created into a short video clip that looks very real. And very shortly, in the next couple of months to years, we're going to see AI on a level in terms of just video content where we wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. We can still kind of tell the difference now between a real human in a video, and when we venture into more advanced AI, you wouldn't even be able to tell if this is even me behind this video recording, this voice recording right now. AI can copy my voice and it can produce videos just like this of me talking, defining a human experience, but it's not human. It's just AI mirroring something that I would say. And people now consume these videos, because it's happening, they're thinking it's a reflection of the person's mind and their spirit. But it's just hollow. It's just AI. Can you feel the emptiness? Can you feel the loneliness of the world? Can you see how fractured society is becoming? When people often look back now and say stuff like, just work harder, you can, you're lazy, you need to do more. We have to understand, and we have to look at the self-realization that a past timeline cannot be compared to the timeline of today. There's no school, no university, no secondary education that can prepare a child for the world that they're going into. Because the world and technology and the way humans are transcending things is becoming so fast that by the time they finished their education, it would have already moved on. So everyone is kind of in this state of existential crisis and struggling just to get through the week, just to get through the day. And just holding a normal job isn't going to be enough. That's why a lot of most relationships are not based on love. They're based on survival. So people can have a dual income. It's interesting how when the cost of living gets higher and higher, we get less divorces because people can't afford to divorce. This futilism that is just under the surface of everyone's mind is terrifying. For me to have the buying power that my father had back in, say, 1991, I calculated it the other day, in terms of like buying a house just here in Australia, I would have to have 15 times the wage that he has or had at the time when he was my age to be able to have the buying power that he had back then. Just think of the gravity of what I just said. That is absolutely unbelievable. So if the cost of living increases and housing prices increases and everything increases to such a level exponentially, having a budget won't work because the wages are not in proportion to the level of the cost of living. Therefore, the quality of life is rapidly decreasing especially in the Western worlds. Everything feels so hollow and empty. When we were a kid and we were in our inner child, particularly when I used to look at the clouds a lot. I used to think of freedom. Freedom is a very important thing to me. The idea that I could get in a vehicle and drive 100 meters or 100 Ks left, right, east, north, south, in any direction that I wanted made me feel excited. You know, we're kind of taught this thing that we're going to get this freedom. We can do anything we want when we get older. And it sounds so exciting because it gets the kid hooked. I call it the Disney effect. We saw that a lot with Disney movies as kids. Part of the mind programming is that people just don't behave like that in relationships like they do in the Disney world. But we were fed a lie. And a lot of younger people, a lot of millennials, a lot of people born around the same time as me or even a generation before are increasingly angry with this. Because we were fed something that was a lie, that was not true. And the formulas that we were taught, where it was like, go to school, study hard, go to university, get a job, you'll get a house, you'll get a wife, you'll get kids, you'll get this kind of perfectly, set future that would be possible. We were fed that. Now that is a dream that will never happen. And I think a lot of the younger generation now are so advanced in the mind. And I think that they are advanced in the mind, but they're not advanced in empathy or compassion. They're not advanced in the heart. But it's the same story everywhere you look in this world. This is where it's at. This is how it's gone. And so this lie that we were fed by the boomers, this formula that we were told to follow, it doesn't work. That's why there's more late 30s and 40-year-olds back at home, because they followed a path that was false. And now they are trying to just live. A lot of them end up back at home with their family and they're angry. They're angry because they were sold a lie. And now we have this massive divide of wealth that's happening between an older generation and a younger generation. And one is basically sitting back doing fuck all and has just acquired mass amounts of wealth. And you'll see the wealth gaps that are happening now throughout the world. It doesn't matter where you go, even in Perth, in Melbourne, in Sydney, in LA, you'll see the homelessness everywhere. The deep, deep despair everywhere. Crushed dreams, abandoned worlds. And the people that have jobs hate them. They have to work their entire life doing this thing that they just absolutely hate. And we're pitched lies. So you have to get to a place like I have where the absurdity of a modern world is so insane that you have to be a little bit like feral. Sometimes I'm going to be honest with you. I go into my inner animal, my inner demon. I will light a fire way out in the bush. I call it going walkabout. I say to my friends, I'm going walkabout, and they know what I mean. That means don't fucking call me. It means I don't want to hear from you. All right? When I go walkabout, I go bush. I've got a big katana. I've got a lot of things that I take with me, and I leave. The phone doesn't really come. drive up into the forest, park my car, and just walk away. Do you know what real freedom in this world feels like? It doesn't feel like going into a shop and like looking at the options that you have to choose from. Like, I can choose this one in this aisle, or I can buy this one. That's not freedom. Freedom is growing your own fucking food and not having to go into the damn shop at all. Freedom is owning your future. Freedom is making your own food, hunting for it. People have become so fucking pussified. Men have been told that they are not allowed to be men, that they're meant to be like women. We've got men pretending to be women. We've got women that want to become men. Everything is inverted. Plot twist. It's not sustainable. You can only invert something so far before it starts to collapse and snap. This is where we are in society. That's why going out after a few days of having no people around me and like smearing the charcoal, like you can see in this photo, all over my face, hearing things, feeling things, sensing things, the stream nearby, the water, the deer grazing in the field nearby, everything, the owls at night, the birds, nature, all of this human bullshit, people living in these cities, and they're all trapped wage slaves and they hate it. You can't tell me that they're happy on a rat race wheel that never ends. The system that just crushes them and chews them up and spits them out. And for what? A lot of these people that work in the corporate world, most of them are psychopaths, narcissists, and sadists. And because the system is rigged, that's why they always come out on top. They do the best. Because the system is fucked. And because they are fucked, they do well. They do good and proper in those worlds. This is the modern trap that humans have created for themselves, and I don't see a way out of it. That's why sustainable living is key. But in order to get to sustainable living, you have to actually really, truly understand how bad it's gotten. We need to look at something as it truly is, not what we want to see, not what they tell us to see, what things really are like, so we can admit how messed up this is. Then we can move on. Then we can try and find ways. The system eats me, it's going to choke on me. I'm not conforming anymore, I'm not doing this. I don't even enjoy uploading things, like even modern technology, it's just such a trap. People have become so useless, so dead inside. It wasn't until I started to get into the occult when I had to really understand that there's actually very few people here. There's actually very few people in a terms of soul level that are actually here in this dimension, in this world, if you know what I mean. Just because there's 8 billion people on the planet, that doesn't mean they're all conscious. We've got plants now. I understand what plants are. Okay, when you start to understand this, it's actually terrifying. A lot of people are just, they enjoy being slaves. They will enforce the system that imprisons them because they don't know any different. This is where we're at. People have changed and it's not going back. And I often find myself thinking of like video stores and thinking of when you used to go into a shop and hire a VHS tape, listening to songs on a cassette player, like things like that. Just having time to just enjoy life, lay in bed and hear the rain hit the window, just to have peace and silence and stillness and calmness, to live in a time when your nervous system was regulated, when food, like when you bought a tomato from a shop, the tomato actually tasted like a real tomato before it was genetically modified, before the skies were sprayed with poisons, before everything was fucked. Before we had the dress rehearsal with COVID for digital ID. Now we know. Now we know. If no one told you that they cared, I did. I care. I care about you. And if you're out there and you're listening to this transmission, you're not alone. And you're not alone in feeling this way, because I feel this way too every day. Once you wake up, you can never go back. I miss the naivete of life as a kid, the magic as a kid, of life as a kid. I'm all about hard work. I'm all about responsibility. I know that in order to get something, you have to give something, but in terms of the system that is so disproportionately rigged in so many levels now, that isn't the reality of the world we're in. People that actually work the hardest get the least now. It's not about working hard. Working hard can get you nowhere quickly. People have to trap other people. You'll often find in most businesses, the people at the tippy top of a business are actually doing fuck all. They're doing fuck all. The ones down the bottom are the ones that bust their ass and get nothing. They get chewed up and spat out, broken spirit, broken back, broken body, broken mind, like dogs in the street, living off scraps. If you enjoy how I talk and if you enjoyed this podcast today, please leave a comment below. Please give this video a like. Please share it with a friend or a family member if you feel so inclined. And also come and find me on my new Patreon. My first video will be coming out next week. And I'm building this Patreon because it's a way for people to support me and my mind, because I am a man with a mind, and the topics that I'll be talking about in my Patreon channel will be what you want to hear from me. So it's going to be completely governed by what you want. Please hit the notification bell so that you can be notified of when my next video comes out. Hopefully you are. Hopefully YouTube does let you know. And I do offer private spiritual counseling sessions that are very, very deep. And you can book that from my channel as well here. The link is below on my website. Lots and lots of love to you, and thank you for your time, and thank you for hearing me. You're not alone. Bye.